happy to be here with you all. I'm a product of K through 12 public school. And so when I chose Christian higher ed for my education, it was so refreshing to come to chapel. I hope today will be the same, that there will be a pause, a moment to rest, hopefully either be reminded of something or learn something new today. So I'm really excited to be here and share with you today. So you all have been in this Abound series, focusing on Old Testament wisdom literature. So wisdom, not a prescription, not an ABC 1, 2, 3 rule book for how to live, but as the Bible Project describes it, it's the collective wisdom of generations of godly people to consider the complexity, but also the simplicity of living wisely. So the question becomes then, how can we live well and do life well? And particularly for today and this week, how can we do relationships well and be good at relationships? The Old Testament literature can speak to that. And when we couple Old Testament wisdom literature with psychology, neurobiology, understanding how our own brain works and how it relates to the brain of someone who's across from us, I think there's some really hopeful, really practical things that we can learn that will help us all feel more good at relationships. And isn't that what we want, right? That will lead to some satisfaction in our daily interactions and really life-giving. So here's why I use my Taylor Swift hook to get you to come to this chapel. I'm not going to talk about her whole catalog. I'm going to talk about a short passage in one of her popular-ish songs, and I'm going to present to you that she's adding fuel to the fire of a very bad model for relationships, okay? I'm not anti-Taylor Swift. However, I think her lyrics and a lot of other things in our culture don't really tell us how to be good at life. But the Old Testament literature, wisdom literature, does have something to say. And most of us can really easily access lyrics to songs or other pop culture things, but perhaps this collective wisdom of generations of godly people might be a little bit more inaccessible. And I don't say that to shame any of us. I've got a whole catalog of songs in my head, particularly Frozen era Disney princess songs connected to my kids. But the cultural narratives around good relationships, living well, they can really distract us from foundational truths. My children have a Sunday school teacher, Miss Mary. Miss Mary has kind of graduated up with them since they were 2 or 3 years old. And every time when they leave her classroom each week, she grabs every kid and she looks them in the eyes and says, "You are chosen and loved by God." And it's so endearing. It's just hardwired in their brain now. And yet we have all these other narratives, right, that tell us, maybe you're not good enough. And maybe some other things, okay? So that brings me to Taylor. So a few years ago, every year we spend an extended family vacation in beautiful Lake Tahoe. I don't know if any of you have had the opportunity to spend time up there, but I've been going since I was in kindergarten. And I don't know, I didn't even look what year it was, but a couple years ago, a friend texted me and said, "Hey, this new Taylor Swift album just showed up, and it's different than other stuff she's done." I was like, great, I'm heading out on my morning run. And this album turned out to be the perfect soundtrack for running in the woods. So we don't have this here, but if you're from Oregon, if you're from somewhere on the East Coast, you might know this experience of running in the woods. It's delightful, walking in the woods. So there's this trail that goes from where we stay along the side of the lake, and it's wooded. There's these beautiful sugar pine trees that are tall and majestic. There's a path that's, winding. It's very quintessential what you think of what the dream, cinematic run in the woods is. The sky is blue, the lake is pristine, it's off here, and I'm listening to Taylor Swift, I'm listening to folklore, and it's the perfect Run in the Woods album. And I hear the first song, the one, great, next one, Last Great American Dynasty, and then who knows what comes next? Exile, okay? Bon Iver and Taylor Swift, and they're duetting, and I'm thinking, This is perfect. And then I have this sinking thing of like, oh no, Taylor Swift, you're making my job so much harder as a marriage and family couples therapist because of what you're saying. Oh dear. And here's what it is, okay? Let me read you the lyrics and tell me if you can see where my heart kind of just like, oh, my job's so much harder now. You may know them. These are the lyrics. So step right out. I'm not going to sing it. There's no amount of crying I can do for you. All this time, we always walked a very thin line. You didn't even hear me out. You never gave a warning sign. All this time, I never learned to read your mind. I couldn't turn things around because you never gave a warning sign. So many signs. So many signs. Do you hear it? Do you think you know what activated me and got me all turned around and irrationally angry at Taylor Swift that morning? You never gave me a warning sign. You never learned to read my mind. I never learned to read your mind. Giving signs, signs, signs. Because that might feel like a required part of a relationship, not to mention very romantic, right? To anticipate and know exactly what your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your friend, what their needs and desires are. Or maybe we do think that's what a good roommate, a good friend, a good best friend, he or she knows exactly what you want and does it without being asked. Unfortunately, this is a myth that is not grounded in reality. And it's straight up just not helpful. So no one knows better than you what you need. And your job is to find a way to articulate that to your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your roommate, your best friend. So, how can we be good at life and good at relationships? Well, we could start by stop expecting people to read our minds, okay? And to start to ask for what we need. But we don't do that. And why don't we do that? Honestly, I understand it. It is way too vulnerable. Because the person in front of you might not give you what you're asking for, right? What will that leave you feeling? Possibly rejected, right? The stakes feel really high. So instead, we just silently expect without ever communicating, and then we get let down or extremely disappointed or angry when we get our non-communicated needs met. And then often we feel justified in that too, right? So can you relate to this? So Taylor Swift, and her seeming approval in these lyrics, right, of mind reading, argues for not communicating, but rather mind reading. So let's go back to Proverbs 15. And it has a lot to say about how we talk to each other and how we would benefit in communicating. So I'm going to read a handful of these verses, including the ones you heard and some additional. So Proverbs 15:1, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. The tongue, verse 2, the tongue of the wise adorns knowledge, but the mouth of the fool gushes folly. Verse 4, the soothing tongue is a tree of life, but a perverse tongue crushes the spirit. We've had those conversations where our spirits are crushed, right? Verse 7, the lips of the wise spread knowledge, but hearts of fools are not upright. Verse 18, I see this in my office sometimes. The hot-tempered person stirs up conflict, but the one who is patient calms a quarrel. Verse 23, a person finds joy in giving an apt reply. And how good is a timely word? So there's some key words here about wise ways to talk to one another. What we heard, gently, with healing words, not crushing another's spirit, patiently, calm, giving an apt reply, listening. And yet, I'm sure every single one of us can recall and call to mind a communication and interaction that went really poorly. when we miss each other, just we're doing this, right? Or we misunderstand one another. So we often talk, but sometimes we don't actually communicate. And I'm going to suggest it's because oftentimes our own emotions get in the way, especially when it's something or someone we care about. So if we want to ask for something, or we want to tell our relationship partner that we want something or that we're disappointed in something, we come into these conversations hoping for something. And our own emotions, if they're under-acknowledged, under-expressed, sometimes they don't allow for communication to actually happen. So what often happens is that we've never really actually communicated because we're just real spun up. And this is where you've probably heard about the hormone cortisol, right? We talk about the stress hormone cortisol quite a bit. So when you're spun up, right, that's a technical term, spun up, our cortisol is just flowing, right? And our brain gets really highly aroused. And so we go into possibly fight, flight, or freeze, right? So someone has said something to us, someone gave us a look or has a tone, right? And our brain says, fight, defend yourself, or flee, just get out of here, back away, right? Let's not do this right now. Or freeze, don't make any sudden moves, okay? And in fight, flight, or freeze, our brain wants to protect us, which is really great for not dying or getting away from a bear, but your boyfriend is not a bear. And your roommate's not a bear. And so our brain is playing a trick on us and saying, this person is dangerous, okay? And your brain's only saying, get to safety. Now, it's not able to consider the other person in front of you. It's not able to consider another perspective. And so what I hope to do today with the rest of the time we have left, in keeping with our theme of wisdom, is to talk about some ways to better communicate. And I think this will help you in any relationship, okay? Romantic relationship, friendship, roommate situations, possibly even in the workplace. So, I am a couples therapist. I am an individual therapist, which the majority of my clients have everyone has a relationship, right? And what I'm going to suggest is that we can have more real, more meaningful communication when our communication is rooted in awareness of ourselves. That communication is way more about awareness and regulating ourselves and our own emotions rather than any perfect or imperfect words we say. Sometimes people come to me and they want recipes and formulas for how to say things so that they can avoid conflict, they can avoid being hurt or disappointed. And I have to kind of shift the thinking that it's really not about finding the perfect way to say something, because that puts a ton of pressure on us, right? And then we have to do it again. That if only I had the right words. That's not it. It's really about, well, the two things I'm going to talk to you about right now. So here's my 2 tips. So if you take away anything today. Number 1, focus on increasing your awareness of your own emotions. And number 2, focus on increasing your regulation of your own emotions. So we're going to focus on what's going on inside of me. And then we're going to focus on how do I manage that so I can be with another person. So what I want to offer you today is an invitation to be thoughtful about exploring your under-acknowledged or under-expressed emotions and help you better understand yourself and then present yourself and your emotions to whoever you're in a relationship with. Because when we do these things, when we increase this awareness of what's going on and we increase the regulation of this, we can calm down. And cortisol recedes a little bit. We also can de-escalate conflict. I know this all sounds magical, but I'm going to walk you through it here, right? We get to de-escalate conflict. We can have constructive conversations and arguments, and we can live well and do relationships better. So you have to slow it down. And I don't mean talking slow. That can help, right? If somebody's really agitated, talking slow and getting more calm is really helpful. But I mean before you ever go to the other person, we have to go slow and start with ourselves. I'm going to give you some examples. We're going to start with the idea of primary and secondary emotions. So a secondary emotion is usually the initial emotion that comes up first. And then underneath, there's usually something that's a little bit more primary, a little bit more core. So, for example, you are a neat freak, okay? Your roommate, however, is not. You walk into the room and clothes are asunder. The remnants of breakfast are on the table, are on your desk. Last week's coffee cups are scattered artfully around, right? And you walk into that space, and it's driving you crazy. And so what's your first neat freak powered emotion? Well, you're feeling what when you walk into something like that? Gross. What else are you feeling? Yeah. Stressed. Yeah. What else? I heard something, but annoyed. Yeah. Annoyed, peeved, frustrated, irritated, right? Well, that's your secondary emotion. And what's under that? Now, it might be a deeper emotion, a more kind of core emotion like anger. And that can be helpful to identify, but then so what, right? So why are we angry? Why are we peeved? Why are we stressed? Why are we annoyed? Well, it's because it's activating something a bit deeper. It's triggering some sort of core belief about us. So, in the quest for vulnerability, I will now present to you one of the more intense fights, disagreements, missing each other that my husband and I have had. It's also for sure one of the dumbest ones we've had because we continued to bring up the pickles, the missing pickles in our house, okay? So my husband Andrew ate the last pickle. He then had the nerve to throw the jar away. He did not go to the grocery list where we all know where the grocery list is and we write it down, right? He did not do that. Nor did he leave the jar on the counter so maybe I would see it and I could add it to the list. So instead, next time I went to the fridge, open it up to get the pickles. Why did I need pickles, you may ask? Well, because I found a really good recipe on potato, beef, and pickle tacos. Fantastic. Sour cream, hot sauce will change your world. So I go to get the pickles, and lo and behold, no pickles. So this discovery led to what we call in the biz a highly escalated emotional encounter, in which I found myself, why didn't you write it down? All you had to do was write it down. You've written it down before. Why is that so hard? Why didn't you do that? Nothing you do makes sense. You suck, okay? So that's where we went. And I don't recall his responses. They don't matter. He was in the wrong. But in any way were we really talking about pickles? We were not talking about pickles. We were talking about core beliefs about ourselves that kicked up, and we were at an 11 out of 10. And that's what was really getting activated or getting triggered here. I'm kind of tired of the word triggered. Are we tired of the word triggered? I'm working out other things. I'm trying with my clients, like activated, a little kind of feel something. All right, activated, triggered. And this is the part about how our brains work. Our brains are reminding us of all the stories. Our brains are very complex. And so it reminds us of all the stories and all the experiences in our lives so far. So what got dug up for me is, you just don't know how much I do to keep this family running. And keeping track of meals and supplies, might not seem like a big job, but sometimes it feels like a big job. Don't you see how much I do? I'm already so busy. And so it wasn't really truly, honestly, about, that he'd forgotten pickles before or something else. It really wasn't about that. It was a much earlier story that had been repeated over and over and over when I was younger. I'm the one who keeps things running. I'm the dependable one. I'll get things done for you. You, friend, family member, church I used to work for. I'll overfunction for you. And so I was sad and I was mad because I felt like my work was going unnoticed. And really, that quickly translated to I felt like I was unnoticed. So it was about that moment, but it was also about a million other moments that had happened all over my life up until this disagreement. So I was sad, I was hurt, but that was only me. For Andrew, when we slowed it down, he was able to realize that he felt managed. I was managing him, and he didn't feel trusted. And he has his own story, right, about feeling managed or not trusted. So we were yelling, pickles, 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 pickles at each other, right? But really, we're saying, I'm sad, I'm hurt, I just want to know I matter to you. So file these away if you find yourself hurt by someone you care for, or in a disagreement with someone you care for, or in a conflict and you thought, why am I so stirred up and how did we even get here? And we're screaming the equivalent of pickles at each other. Try these on. See if these are one of the core beliefs or core fears that get activated. Do you feel not seen? Do you feel not appreciated? Not trusted? Do you feel alone? Do you feel like you don't matter? Not valued? Not good enough? Not respected? Not worthy or dismissed? These are the emotions that really are at play because they are fears. I'm fearful that I don't matter or that I'm not enough. So forgive me if it feels cheesy. This is, I think, my mom part of me. But I do really want to remind you that you are valuable. You are seen. Ephesians tells us we're God's workmanship. The Psalms that we're fearfully and wonderfully made. Jesus says that he knows every hair on our head. And that's true. But also the cultural narratives say, it's not true. You don't matter. You're not good enough. No one sees you. So then when your best friend or your boyfriend or your girlfriend or someone who matters to you misses you or disappoints you, it genuinely feels very painful. So normally we just don't even go to examine that because even that can feel like too much. So with the roommate example, instead of, gosh, they left their stuff everywhere, I kind of just don't feel appreciated. I kind of feel like that our shared space is our shared space, and when it's neglected, it feels like I'm neglected. It doesn't matter to you, kind of like I don't feel like I matter. But we don't do that. And why, again? It's because of our vulnerability. It just feels really tender. It feels really, really tender to realize that I don't feel like enough or that I don't matter. So we avoid painful emotions, and then we can never even get to what's my second part that we're going to talk about right now, which is it's so much more satisfying when we learn to regulate those painful feelings. And we don't know how to do that because most of the time we're not spending time practicing that. So instead, what do? We all do this. We get really passive aggressive. We side-eye, we avoid, we stonewall, we get cranky. That's kind of my favorite. I like to get cranky. We try to read someone's mind, and sometimes we'll assign a character flaw to them. She is a slob. He is a slob. He's a liar, right? We'll do these things. The first part of another proverb, Proverbs 26:17 says, a fool grabs a dog by the ears, right? You're doing something that doesn't work. You're grabbing a dog by the ears. It's only going to hurt us. But we continue to do it. We continue to be passive aggressive. We continue to avoid. And they're not effective communication strategies. But I see why they make sense because it feels really protective. I feel vulnerable. I'm going to protect. However, let me suggest a new option, okay? And maybe this is just a reminder. Maybe you already do this, and I would be so thrilled if that's the case because you're learning this young, and it's going to really benefit you. So here's the recipe. Notice primary emotion. I'm bugged, I'm annoyed. Be brave, be vulnerable. Look underneath it. What core belief is being activated? I don't feel good enough. I don't feel seen. And then you start to regulate it. First step, self-compassion. Say to yourself, this does feel tender. I feel really small. Validate that. This is going to take a lot of the punch out of it. So now it's like letting the air out of the tire, okay? So you're more regulated, more reactive. You've done some hard work. You're de-escalating yourself. And now you can consider another perspective. You're going to have more compassion for yourself and for another. So there's more to say. But let me say this. Practice this. See if you can have a posture of practicing and curiosity, being thoughtful about how your mind works and possibly how the mind in front of you, that person in front of you, and what you're carrying into conversations, what core beliefs are being triggered here. So Taylor Swift, she's flawed. Some of her lyrics, flawed. One song can help us here. You need to calm down. Okay? So go slow. Increase your awareness of your own emotions. Focus on increasing regulation of those emotions. And my hope and prayer truly, and as I've practiced this, honestly, my relationships have shifted. I want to give you that hope, okay? So effective communication can happen. This is only going to increase your compassion for yourself and for others, and you'll have relationships that are done in love.
Discover who you're called to be at Biola University, a leading Christ-centered university in Los Angeles, with programs on campus and online. Subscribe for more of our videos and learn more at biola.edu.